A year ago, because of a terrible accident, this girl's face had been badly disfigured. The king had put out a public notice to find a good boy for his daughter's happiness, but no one could pass that test. When I got news of this, my eyes lit up. It felt as if the moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. Yes, I was not from this world. I had come from another world, and I had received a special sweet love system. If I bonded with a girl, I would receive points for every romantic thing I did. With those points, I could buy things from the system's shop, and the higher the girl's status, the more points I would receive. That is why I wanted to choose my partner very carefully. And the king's daughter, that is, a princess, her status was very high. According to history, within a few years she was going to reach an even higher rank. In ancient times, the greatest status a woman could have was that of a princess, and the highest status meant a 100x bonus on points. Thinking only this, the next day I took that notice and went straight to the royal palace. When the gatekeeper saw me, he immediately sent word inside. When the king and his sons learned that someone had come with the notice, all three of their eyes lit up. The eldest son immediately stood up and said, "Father, let me go and meet him." The king nodded in agreement. The prince went out. The palace doors opened, and a strong, handsome young man appeared before me. He asked, "Are you the one who brought the notice?" He looked me over from top to bottom. My first impression was not bad. Wheatish complexion, good features, and a simple, honest face that felt familiar. I folded my hands and said, "Yes." He asked, "What is your name? What work do you do?" I replied, "My name is also Li Shao. I am from the northern region. I do farming." "And who are you?" He said, "I am the king's son. Come with me." Although it was clearly visible that this girl had no great importance. Actually, this time the notice did not require looking at family background. They only wanted a person who would truly care for the princess from his heart. I folded my hands and walked behind him. Through winding paths, we reached a large room. He said, "Sit. Bring tea." Then he himself sat on the higher chair. I sat on a chair. After a while, tea arrived. The prince said, "First drink tea." He picked up his tea without looking at me. I calmly picked up my tea too and began drinking. Both of us drank tea quietly. It seemed marrying the princess was not so easy. First, I would have to pass the prince's test. A common farmer cannot so easily get permission to marry a princess. While drinking tea, half an hour passed. I began to feel like I needed to go to the toilet. Then a servant came and whispered in the prince's ear, "We have found out about him. His name is also Li Shao. He is from a small village in the northern region. He belongs to a family of hereditary farmers. Age 21 years. His mother and father both passed away last year. He is alone at home. Not married yet. No children. His background is completely clean." Actually, the prince wanted to know exactly this. It was necessary to ensure that no already married man had left his wife and come here. The prince thought to himself, background is fine. Sister does not need family background. She just needs a person who will truly care for her. And such a lone person is less trouble. But first, there had to be a test. Suddenly, the prince's face became stern. He stood up and glared at me and said, "How dare a common farmer try to enter our royal house? Tell me, what is your real intention?" So this was the prince's first test. I paused for a moment. In front of me stood a prince, from a very high family, trained in swordsmanship and horse riding since childhood, and fierce in appearance. A common man would get scared by such a scolding. But I had thought everything through last night. I had prepared an answer for every situation, and I had already lived 2 lives, so my mind was a little stronger. I said calmly, "Prince, I do not agree with what you said." The prince's eyes widened. He did not expect that this boy would answer back. The people who had come before had trembled in fear. He asked, "Where am I wrong?" I raised my hand respectfully toward the sky and said, "His Majesty the Emperor himself has proclaimed that farming is the real foundation. Grain and cloth both come from the farmer. So calling a farmer ordinary or foolish would be an insult to the Emperor's own decree." Hearing this, the prince immediately became silent. He thought to himself, "There is something in this boy." The prince himself had not expected such an answer. He had asked a frightening question, and this boy had turned it back on him. He himself was educated, but he did not know whether the emperor had actually said such a thing or not. But after the emperor's name was mentioned, he could not say anything, and he began to wonder how such words came from the mouth of a real farmer. Was I really a farmer? I folded my hands and said calmly. The prince said, "Don't lie. Where did a farmer get such words?" I smiled and said, "After farming, whatever time remains, I borrow books from a pundit in the village and read them. That is why I know a little." This was true. Actually, I already knew the history of this era, and I had come prepared. The prince, a little restless, said, "What is the use of reading so many books if you are a farmer? It seems you are one of those people who study only to enter a big house." I shook my head and said, "No. Reading books opens the mind. The mind stays calm. Thinking becomes bigger. This is not to enter a big house, but to make myself better." Hearing this, the prince felt that this boy talked like his teacher, whose words used to go over his head. The prince asked directly, "Fine. Leave all this. Tell me plainly, why do you want to marry the princess?" It seemed this was the real test. If I passed this, the work would be done. I took a sip of tea and said calmly, "As I said before, reading books makes one's thinking bigger. When I talk to village girls, I feel we are not on the same level. So I am looking for a girl who is educated and sensible, with whom I can share my heart." The prince said, "Say it in simple language." I didn't understand. I said, "All right. In plain words, I do not need looks. I need a woman who is educated and has refinement." I had said this after thinking carefully. In that era, educated women were very few. But the king's wife was very educated. She had read thousands of books. So their daughter would obviously be educated. And this excuse seemed perfect. The prince understood. He wanted a girl who was educated. And sister's face had been disfigured, but her education and intelligence were still the same. The prince felt that after many days, a boy had come who had come not for money or status, but for intelligence and refinement. But he did not reveal his feelings. He simply said, "I will have to disappoint you. The princess has liked embroidery and knitting since childhood. She has some interest in studies, but she is no great scholar." Hearing this, I panicked a little inside. My excuse had backfired. But there was no way to retreat. I folded my hands and said, "Then forgive me, I will leave." And without looking back, I walked straight away. The prince kept watching. When I was almost about to go outside, only then did he believe that this boy was truly leaving, not doing drama. And then the prince walked forward quickly 2 or 3 steps and said loudly, "Brother, stop." I turned and looked. In my mind I understood, this too was a test. The prince smiled and said, "To be honest, my sister has loved books since childhood." Sorry, that was a small test. Then he said, "You did well. Come, let me introduce you to my sister." I said, "Prince, you look fierce, but from your heart you are very wise." Hearing this, the prince swelled a little and said, "Yes, friend, you said the right thing." The prince laughed out loud and waved his hand and said, "Come with me. Let me introduce you to the princess." I folded my hands and walked behind him. Wandering around, we reached another large room. As soon as I entered, I saw a girl sitting on a chair on the right side of the room. Her clothes were extremely royal. She had jewelry on her head. From a distance, she looked absolutely beautiful. But when you looked at her face, it was badly burned. Burn marks spread over her whole face like a spider's web. There were marks on her hands too. The rest of her body was covered with clothes. The prince said, "This is my elder sister." As soon as we entered the room, the prince's eyes were on me. He wanted to see whether I was afraid or not. The people who had come before had become disturbed after seeing this face. The prince had scolded them well. I bowed and said, "Pranam to the princess." There was no fear on my face, no hatred, because I was already prepared. Just then, I heard the system's voice in my ear. "This girl's name is Kampa. Age 16. She is a maid here. Do you want to bond with her? Once bonded, it cannot be changed." Kampa, a maid. She was not the princess. I understood. This was another test. In my mind, I refused to bond. Now I began to think, what should I do here? If I bowed too much before this maid or started praising her, it would seem that I had come for money and status. So I chose a different path. I looked at that maid and said, "Princess, my age is 21 years. I have not married until now because I could not find anyone whose heart matches mine. I believe beautiful faces are thousands, but a person with good thinking is rare. I have heard that you are very educated, so I came to meet you. And if you want to choose me, then I also have the right to choose you." Hearing this, everyone was shocked. No one had expected that this boy would challenge the princess herself. The prince said loudly, "What insolence is this? What is your status to speak to the princess like this?" The princess paused for a moment, then said, "Fine. Speak." The prince was about to say something, but stayed quiet. I said, "I will ask a riddle. If you answer it, I will accept that we are on the same level." Silence spread in the room. I said loudly, "On a night of 7 stars, the heart remains sad. Every year, on one night only, comes the chance of meeting. I wish this happiness between earth and sky remained every year." The princess thought for a long time, then shook her head and said, "I do not know the answer." Hearing this, I folded my hands and said, "Then forgive me, I will leave." And without turning back, I walked out. At that very moment, behind a white curtain in the room, another girl was watching all this. Her eyes were deep and beautiful, like stars in the night. But her face was also burned like that maid's. However, just by looking at those eyes, one could guess how beautiful this girl must have been before the burn. Beautiful faces are thousands, but a person with good thinking is hard to find. The real princess was thinking in her heart, "Does such a man really exist who does not look at the face?" I was walking outside. I knew that the maid was not the princess. If I had become disturbed seeing that burned face, or on the contrary started praising it too much, then suspicion would arise that my intention was not clean. That is why I chose the path that seemed most correct. Behind the curtain, the real princess had seen everything. The prince became a little troubled. This boy had passed all the tests, but now his sister's consent was needed. His heart hurt seeing his sister's condition. For many years, she had not met anyone. She had reduced her food and drink. That is why the brother had insisted on putting up this notice. And now, finally, a boy had come who was truly different, educated, and not like others who came only for money or status. The prince went behind the curtain and said restlessly, "Sister, how do you like this boy?" The princess said softly, "It is fine. I have decided that I will not marry in this life." The prince had seen that the boy was wheatish and handsome. The girl had liked him, but the words he had said had touched her heart. Actually, the princess had seen Li Shao from behind the curtain and had liked him. But the words he had said, "Beautiful faces are thousands, but a person with good thinking is hard to find," those words had sunk into her heart. People used to call her bad names behind her back. For the first time, someone said something that felt like sunlight instead of burning coals. The princess had the deepest pain of her lost beauty, and these words felt like ointment on that wound. The prince said, "Sister, I do not want you to remain alone. This boy is truly good. I have tested him myself." The princess thought a lot, then said, "But brother, can he really spend his whole life with a burned face? 1 year will pass, 2 years, 3 years, no one can guarantee. And if his thinking changes after getting the power of the royal house, there are many questions." The princess clenched her teeth and turned away. "Brother, understand it yourself. Let this opportunity go." The prince thought, "Sister may be less educated, but she knows that an opportunity once gone does not come back. Such a boy may not come again in life." The prince persuaded her again. "Sister, listen to your brother. Just give him some time. If you truly do not like him, then we will see later." The princess wanted to leave, but the brother blocked the path. He said, "After so many years, a right boy has come. If this chance goes, there will be regret. Sister, you have turned 18. The other sisters are married. I do not want you to remain alone." She said, "Brother, move out of the way." The brother said, "I will not move until you say yes." She said, "This is force." The brother said, "Today let it be force. Give yourself one chance. Marriage is not necessary. Just meet him once." Seeing this stubbornness of her brother, the princess finally gave in. Maybe it was okay to give herself one chance. And just then, from behind the curtain, the princess's voice came. She had answered my riddle. Her voice came from beyond the curtain. In the distance between two hearts, a slight longing. At midnight, in dreams, when fragrance steals, then every day a little coolness is found. I stopped. I smiled and came back out and said, "The princess's answer. How was it?" I thought and said, "The voice came from behind the curtain." She laughed and said, "Yes, that too was a test. Tell me, how did you find my sister's intelligence?" I said, "Truly amazing." From behind the curtain, a soft voice came. "You praised me, but actually you are the one worthy of praise. Living in a village, yet attached to books, that is praiseworthy." I bowed and thanked her. Then she said, "You tested me with a riddle, so now I will test you. Write a poem and show me." I felt happy inside. The prince said softly, "Is this not a little difficult?" I said, "No, not at all." The princess said softly, "The exam season is here. Write a poem on the people going for exams." I had not even taken one step when I immediately said, "The poems of earlier poets are on everyone's lips. Now they have become old. This world produces new talented people in every age, and everyone dominates in their own time." Silence spread in the room. Just then, the princess came out from behind the curtain. She wore white clothes. On her head was a white veil that covered her face. Just looking at her figure, it seemed that she had once been no less than a fairy. She asked softly, "Li Shao, did you really come because of my intelligence?" I said truthfully, "Yes. I am a farmer. That is why I am not married. I need a companion with whom my heart connects. That was also what the system required. She must truly love me." She asked, "Will you not regret it?" Just then, a light appeared in front of me. The system said, "This girl's name is Princess Zunying. Age 18 years. The king's eldest daughter. Identity bonus, 50x. Do you want a bond? Once bonded, it cannot be changed. 50 times." A storm of happiness rose in my mind, but I did not bond immediately. First I bowed and said, "Regret? I am happy." She remained silent for a long time, then said, "Really? You will not regret it?" I said with full confidence, "Absolutely not." The princess paused for a moment, looked at her brother, and said, "In marriage, the parents' wish matters. When father decides, it is acceptable to me." And saying this, she went inside. The prince came forward smiling. "Li Shao, stay here for now. I have to tell father everything." I said, "As you say." He signaled, and a servant took me to a large room. The room was extremely magnificent. After some time, two maids came and said that bath preparations were ready and that they would help remove clothes. I seriously refused. "I will bathe myself." They smiled lightly and left. Later I learned that this too had been a test. The prince was about to go and tell his father when a servant came and said, "One more boy has come." The prince went to the door. In front stood a boy with an arrogant face. The prince asked, "Name? Where are you from? What work?" The boy said arrogantly, "My name is Zhang. My father is the district officer here. I myself am educated. Soon I will appear for a big examination. My name will definitely be selected." The prince said, "Good. Then recite a poem on examination." The boy thought for a long time and with great difficulty recited a worthless poem. As soon as the prince heard it, he said, "What nonsense is this? Get out of here." The boy said, "But my father is an officer, and I myself am educated." The sentence was not even complete when the prince pushed him out and said, "Run. People who come hiding behind their status are not needed here." After comparing, the prince became even more certain that this boy, Li Shao, was the right one. At night, the prince told his father and mother the whole story. When he recited the poem, "Every age brings new talented people, and everyone dominates in their own time." Father immediately stood up. Father was surprised. A farmer really made this poem? Mother also said, "Indeed, it is a good poem. No wonder our daughter did not refuse this time." Mother asked, "Is he really just a farmer?" The elder son also asked, "Such talent and just farming? Did you check properly?" The prince said, "Yes, I had it checked when he came. He is a hereditary farmer. His background is completely clean." But hearing that poem, I too was a little doubtful. So I myself went to his village. Father took a sip of tea and asked, "So what did you find?" The prince said, "I went to the village and saw for myself. He really is a hereditary farmer. Mother and father passed away 6 months ago. He has 3 big has of land. I saw the house and land with my own eyes." The village head also told the full truth. Father happily nodded. A farmer, no parents, and some talent too. Not bad. Then he asked, "But where did this intelligence come from?" The prince said, "There is a pundit in the village. In his free time after farming, he borrows books from him and reads. That pundit is the only educated person in the village. He used to teach in a school earlier. I spoke with him too, and he said the same." Father laughed out loud. A farmer's love for books? This is rarely seen. It seems he is worthy of this house. If our daughter also likes him, then it is fine. This relationship is fixed. Mother glanced at him and said, "You have not even met him, and you made a decision? First see him yourself." Father laughed and said, "Before our marriage, we also had not met. Marriages happen with the elder's wish. But this is our daughter's life, so more caution is needed." Mother agreed. Father asked the prince, "Honestly, how did he seem to you?" The prince thought and said, "Father, I cannot say much from one meeting, but his face looks simple and honest. I liked him, but only the heart knows the heart's condition. It would be better if you meet him yourself." Father got an idea. "Good. A great saint is here with us these days. Tomorrow we will have Li Shao's hand read by him." Hearing this, my heart beat a little faster. I do not believe in superstition, but in history this saint was mentioned. He truly knew a lot. A name came to my mind. Who was he? The black-clothed sadhu. Could he reveal my secret? I tried to calm myself. The prince happily said, "Yes, father, I will arrange everything." And both brothers bowed and left. Father looked at mother and smiled. "Is this arrangement okay?" Mother said calmly, "This is our daughter's life. No carelessness." That same night, the princess was standing by her window looking outside. 3 years had passed since she had gone outside. Today someone had stirred her calm heart. She said, "Kampa, did you really like him?" The maid said softly, "Princess, today when he saw me, there was no hatred in his eyes. Maybe he really is different." The princess had felt the same, but still asked, "Really?" The maid said, "Yes, princess. In these years, I have learned to read people's eyes. That boy's eyes had no hatred. To be honest, I am a little jealous of you." The princess smiled lightly and said, "Oh, so you like him? Take him then." The maid laughed. No, he likes your eyes. Where will he notice me?" The princess's face turned a little red. "Kampa, don't talk nonsense." The maid said seriously, "Princess, truly, the one who came today was completely different from the earlier boys." The princess remembered him in her heart. Beautiful faces are thousands, but a person with good thinking is rare. Truly, he was different. The maid said, "Princess, do not let this opportunity slip from your hands." The princess smiled and said, "I know. Pick the flowers that have bloomed, otherwise later only branches will remain." The maid said, Yes, this is the point." The princess said, "All right, I leave the marriage matter to father." But even after lying down, sleep did not come. A thought came to her mind. Whatever happens, the first step must be taken. If I truly do not like him, I will not talk. The next morning, I woke up fresh. The palace bed was like heaven compared to my old home's bed. I was doing some exercise in the courtyard when the prince came with quick steps and said, "Brother, working out? Come, let's do it together." I smiled and said, "Prince, exercising with you is a big thing." I knew this prince's future, but right now he seemed simple and friendly. And he was very close to the princess, so being friends with him was necessary. We both went to the training ground and ran some laps. The prince said, "It seems you do a lot of exercise." I said, "Prince, I am a farmer. Hard work happens in the fields. But in front of you, I am nothing." The prince asked, "Do you know archery?" I laughed. "I can run, but I really do not know how to shoot arrows." The prince picked up a heavy bow for himself and gave me a light bow. He said, "Come, I will teach you." In front of that same ground, the princess's room was on the 3rd floor. The maid peeked out, and called the princess. Princess, look, he has run so many laps with the prince. The princess felt happy inside. The prince had a hot temperament and few friends. Someone who could mix with him like this must be special. But when it came to archery, she laughed seeing Li Shao's condition. The distance that his poem had created yesterday had now reduced a little. The maid said, I thought he would also be amazing in archery, but it seems he does not know this. The princess looked at him and said, Enough now. Yesterday you promised to serve me, and today you are staring at a boy. Have you no shame? The maid said, Just one more look. The princess said, If you look once more, I will make you write books. The maid folded her hands. Forgive me, princess. On the ground, my fingers were moving. Drawing a bow of more than 60 kilos without training was truly difficult. A word slipped from my mouth, but I immediately came to my senses and said, Sorry. The prince waved his hand and said, No problem. Among us men, such words happen. Brother, you know, the day you answered me back, that very day I started liking you. I like such people. So this was the reason he liked me. Good. Knowingly or unknowingly, I had won his heart. The prince said, Archery cannot be learned in one day. We will learn slowly. Come, today I will introduce you to a great saint. I asked Saint. He said, Come on, you will find out. He recognizes people well. Then he laughed and revealed the truth. Honestly, your work is almost fixed. I know my sister well. When she said, Whatever father says is acceptable, it means she has no problem with you. Today is just a formality. We will see the horoscope and all. Hearing this, my heart became a little nervous. I do not believe in superstition, but in history this saint truly knew a lot. A name kept echoing in my mind. Who was he? That black-clothed sadhu. I calmed my mind and kept walking. After some time, we reached a quiet room. Inside, a black-clothed sadhu was sitting. In front of him, a chessboard was also placed. The prince bowed and said, Pranam, Mahatma Ji. Then he said to me, This is the great saint. I also bowed respectfully. The saint glanced at me and gestured, Come, sit. He made tea. When the fragrance spread and the teacup came in front of me, I lifted it with both hands, blew on it, took a sip, and said, Wow, what tea this is. The saint smiled and said, Li Shao, brother. He truly has a connection with our family. Then he extended his own hand forward and said, Mahatma Ji, please also see my hand and tell me how my fate is. The saint smiled but did not answer directly. He said, Prince, you are from a royal house. It is not right to say anything about you. The prince quietly pulled his hand back. The saint looked at me and said, I learned palm reading from a great saint. Will you give your hand? Let us see what your fate is. I felt this was the king's instruction. I extended my hand. The saint held my wrist and slowly moved to my palm. He felt every finger carefully. He closed his eyes and began to sway slightly. For about 15 minutes, this continued. His face was calm. From outside, nothing could be known. But inside, his heart had been shaken because what he felt was extremely surprising. In this young man's future, there was status equal to half an emperor. He thought quickly, this person is not going to become emperor himself. Then there was only one meaning. He would rule together with a great king. And who could that king be? There was only one name, the king himself. The saint suppressed his happiness. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for years. Unknowingly, his grip tightened a little. I said, Mahatma Ji, please reduce the pressure. He was startled and let go of my hand. He folded his hands and said, Forgive me. Your fate is so special that I got lost. My heart wondered if he had really caught something. The prince became nervous and said, Mahatma Ji, what happened? Is something wrong? The saint smiled happily and said, Very good fate. His luck is 1 in a million. I have never seen such a fate. And his luck will bring happiness to the people around him. He laughed loudly and said 3 times, Very good, very good, very good. The prince was overjoyed. He held my hand and said, Brother. No, future brother-in-law. I had said it before. People of one house meet each other. I liked you at first sight. I was a little startled and said, laughing, Prince. The prince interrupted. Say brother-in-law. Do not say prince. You are older,